Hi everybody, welcome and thanks for participating in the course. It's really good to have got to this stage with so many people engaged. I've really enjoyed reading what you've been saying in the course. Some great help being dished out to each other, so thank you. This Q&A, we've collected some of the top questions that you've posted and hopefully I'll be able to answer them sufficiently. Please do follow up questions in the thread itself and I'll try and expand on my answers if I need to do. Okay, so the first question comes from Claire. She's asking about is one lesson a week enough time on a computer to teach computing properly? How do other schools fit computing into a primary curriculum and how long are the lessons? Well, obviously this is very dependent on context. It's difficult to say how to get more time on a computer because some schools have no computer suites, some schools have many, some schools have laptops in lessons. So you kind of work what you've got, essentially. There are lots and lots and lots of parts of the primary curriculum, from thinking about algorithms to how the internet works, that don't need to be done with a computer. And in fact, these can be the most broadly engaging parts of the whole curriculum. You can roll them into different themes, you can put them, do them through different subjects. The barefoot materials, which have been linked to from this course, they're full of ways to do this, to bring in dance, to bring in English, geography, history, all kinds of ways of mixing this up. It's been pointed out by some in the MOOC that for effective learning to be embedded in non-computing lessons, so across the curriculum, there's a need for more staff training, and that's true. It's true with any subject. If you're asking non-specialists to teach a subject, then training is very important, CPD is very important. Hopefully, you as participants in this MOOC feel a bit more able to lead that now and to go back to your schools and to talk to other people about useful practices and share resources. There's a whole load of face-to-face CPD done here at the National STEM Learning Centre, which people can access, and we'll talk in a few minutes a little bit more about other ways of getting help and updates. So this question comes from Lucy. She's asking, what are people's opinions about introducing text-based programming languages at Key Stage 2, such as Python? My short answer is don't. There's really no expectation in the English curriculum that primary school children learn a text-based language in normal lessons. There's so much that can be done with Scratch and Logo and Tinker and Make Code, the microbit environment. These are the block-based languages. You can undertake really complex projects that will develop very high-level computational thinking. If you find that you've exhausted the capability of these platforms, then yes, consider text-based programming. But first of all, well done, because each of these platforms is very capable and can do an awful lot. So you've clearly spent a lot of time programming. I would probably consider at that point offering text-based outside of the curriculum, maybe in a code club or some sort of after-school STEM club. It's really not a mainstream requirement for primary school children. Some do it. It's not very widespread. This is a question from Carl. He's asking, in primary schools particularly, is there an argument for computer science to be a specialist area for a specialist teacher, given the steep learning curve involved for many teachers? Is there an argument for courses and CPD specifically to help primary teachers to bridge the gap and be more confident in delivery of computing? So clearly they're linked questions. Again, this is an interesting question, and there isn't really a right answer for all schools. Many schools do have a single specialist teacher who delivers computing to everyone, and it means that they become very, very practiced teachers. They develop very advanced subject knowledge. They can really focus on some excellent projects and get some really good resources together. However, that's not really the approach that would take place in maths or science, for instance, where teachers across the whole school get involved in teaching, and it's an expectation. So I think it could be a slippery slope potentially if one teacher does all of the teaching, because as we know, if it's not something that you're asked as a professional to actually do, then you'll let it slip. If you know you're not teaching computing this year, then it's somebody else's responsibility. And it kind of misses the chance to bring it into these different themes, to use these cross-curricular approaches that we talked about. And it's a missed opportunity, really. In terms of CPD, there are lots and lots of courses. Obviously, this MOOC is aimed at exactly those people. It's aimed at teachers who are new to teaching computing, so not just subject coordinators, but anybody. We do have lots and lots of courses here in York for teachers to come along, from leading a department through to games programming in Key Stage 1, all sorts of stuff. And a lot of it works out very low cost thanks to Enthuse Awards. So it's worth a look. CARS, Computing at School, and the regional centres, they do also have masterclasses, depending on your region. It's worth checking their offer out to get CPD from universities and from master teachers in those areas. So there is CPD available. It's likely that within a primary school, the subject coordinator will become the specialist and might well cascade to other teachers in the school. But I would probably always advise that cascading does happen, and that one person doesn't hold on to that. What happens, for instance, if that person leaves or is off sick, that will be the end of computing at that school for the foreseeable future. So, I would try and spread the joy. Okay, this is a really good question from Lynn. Thank you, Lynn. I read somewhere that computing was introduced to make students into logical thinkers and problem solvers. Do I think computer science does this, and why? At the risk of sounding like I'm copping out, I would say it depends on how it is used. If I pick the metaphor of a pile of sticks, well, a pile of sticks could just be a pile of sticks. Or, in the right hands with the right teaching, it could be the tools used to solve a well-designed challenge. If you provide tools and you provide the knowledge of how to use those tools, and then you set problems that are within the scope of students, then yes, computing does present lots of opportunities to build problem-solving skills. If children don't have basic understanding and skill, then they're not going to be able to solve problems. They're just going to get stuck in the practicalities of problem solving and not see your way through. If someone gave me a torque wrench or some other complicated tool and did tell me what to do with it, I probably wouldn't be able to solve many problems with it. And computing can be the same. So yes, it can build on knowledge, but I wouldn't expect children to problem solve without knowledge. It's often used as a way for demonstrating learning at the end of a topic. It really shows whether children can apply what they've learnt in unfamiliar contexts. It can also be used if you're using kind of problem-solving approaches during lessons. Then the fact that children need to know something to solve a problem is quite a motivation to learn that thing. It makes learning real. If your actual aim is to develop problem-solving ability amongst children, then they need to be actually taught those methods. Computing, like any other subject in itself, doesn't necessarily make people problem-solving experts, but there are kind of reusable approaches that can be applied in the classroom that kind of guide children through problem-solving activities and give them a reusable toolkit, for want of a better word, that they can then apply to new problems. Even within the barefoot materials, computational thinking breaks down big problems into a set of concepts, like thinking about algorithms, thinking about abstraction, thinking about the structure of data. All very useful. Not in itself a problem-solving method, but it helps you show children how these big problems break down. The key thing is that children aren't born able to decompose and to solve complex problems, but I would say that comprises a set of skills that definitely develops through use. So don't do it once. If you're going to get into problem-solving approaches, don't try it once, try it many times, and be patient to see the results. Okay, thanks to Matthias and Susan, who both asked about how teachers can be kept up to date, even if they've got computer science backgrounds. If that's a little bit out of touch with the contemporary world, how do they stay relevant? Well, there are some very good publications out there that come out periodically. The most recent here in the UK is a magazine called Hello World, which comes from Raspberry Pi Foundation with the support of Computing at Schools. That includes all kinds of content, practical project ideas and their solutions, news, reviews, features, code snippets, all kind of things. So really worth subscribing to. At the moment, I believe this only applies to the UK, that teachers can sign up for Hello World and it'll be delivered free to their house. Okay, so that's well worth looking into. The Teach London Computing programme in London also publishes a magazine, or a series of magazines called Computer Science for Fun, and this kind of presents cutting-edge issues in contemporary computing in a nice format, fairly detailed articles, but inspiring and generally along a theme in each magazine. They're good for your knowledge and your general interest, and they can be used to enrich lessons for your more able students to grasp with some kind of ethical and big picture stuff. There's a whole series of magazines and podcasts around the world of tech. So if you're wanting to just keep informed as to the wider world, then Wired make a good magazine and a good podcast. BBC Click is a regular BBC kind of it gives an overview of things around computer technology. If you're wanting to keep up to date with classroom teaching ideas, then I'd very strongly recommend that you join a CAS hub. If you're in the UK, there will be one hopefully quite locally to you. If you look on the Computing at Schools website, you'll find one. If you're overseas, there are often virtual online hubs that you can join, or there may well be CAS equivalents in your near your home. So it's worth looking at. Okay, Jenny sent in a question asking, what ideas do we have for teaching computing in a Key Stage 3 PRU? So a PRU is a pupil referral unit for students who've struggled to stay in mainstream education. So clearly children who've had some issues and may well struggle to learn more than your average mainstream child. So I'm no expert in this, I will admit. I consulted my friend and colleague Catherine Elliott of Sheffield e-Learning Service, who does an awful lot of work with special schools and young offender units and all kinds of stuff. So she recommended that Sonic Pi is worth looking at. It's a text-based programming language which is based on Ruby, but it can be very motivating because they create music. Sonic Pi has recently gone through another development. You can plug in data sources to it and all kinds of stuff. So it's a very capable platform, but it's a bit different to your average on-screen programming, and you can make things happen with 1, 2, 3 lines of code. Very simple syntax, but a solid text-based language. Catherine also recommended hacking Minecraft on the Pi, so using Python to make Minecraft do crazy things. Robotics and physical computing, also quite popular. Anything really that has quick wins and brings immediate feedback. And that's, to me, the broader joy of robotics and physical computing, and to a large extent Sonic Pi, that you get to see immediately, you get feedback immediately on your programming. So that's very engaging. Also Kodu, which is the Microsoft game development platform, which is a free download. Good for those students who might struggle with text-based languages. You can create games very easily, which can be controlled with Xbox controllers or microbits or all kinds of things. And the games look nice, which is the key thing. They're in a 3D world with nice movable characters and things. So well worth a look at Kodu. Okay, this is quite a thorny question from Nigel, who asks, how can he convince his school to take computing more seriously and allow students more than an hour a week of study at Key Stage 3, so for students who are age 11 to 14? It's difficult. There's a lot of variables in play here. There's a lot of curriculum subjects all jostling for space in the timetable, all of which have got to prove their worth, really. And to a large extent, that worth is proven by results, and it's proven by the number of students who are interested and opt for your subject. And obviously a key point here is options time. So when it comes to students choosing an option at age 14, are they choosing your subject in big numbers? Because if they are, then their underperformance would have a big impact on the school's performance and accountability as a whole. So therefore that would add weight to your Key Stage 3 requirements, that you need more time. It's also useful to look at your 14 to 16 learners and to see what do their results look like. So if your school is content and determined to make a computing offer, which it should be, how are their results at 16, and is there an underachievement there which has been caused by a lack of Key Stage 3 preparation? Clearly it's something other subjects, maths, science, design, technology, you name it, they don't tend to pick up students at 14 with very little practical experience before then and expect them to do well at a GCSE. Key Stage 4 qualifications the specifications are written on the basis of a full study of the national curriculum up to that point. So if that's not done, it's going to be no surprise if attainment suffers. One of the issues is that head teachers kind of go a bit misty-eyed and reminisce about when ICT used to bring in fists full of qualifications, and some of them wonder why computing's having a harder time, don't necessarily recognise how much has changed. If you're able to build a case for a broader Key Stage 4 offer, so an offer at 14, 16, that would get more kids onto more qualifications, perhaps technical and vocational qualifications, that you're confident would bring in those all-important good results for school accountability, then that again adds weight to your argument. Success tends to follow success. So, if you're doing well, then you're likely to be able to put forward a confident argument. If you want to talk to senior leadership about computing, then Computing at Schools have created a senior leaders toolkit, which hopes to impress on senior leaders just how important computing is, and hopes to contextualise the curriculum change and get them to understand the position that teachers are being put in. Thanks for your questions. I've enjoyed answering them. If you have further questions, please do post them and I'll do my very best to respond. Thank you.